Welcome in battlers who are playing in the Battle Frontier. My name's Fish from Pallet Town PvP, and in these videos we do a quick 6-minute breakdown of any sort of custom meta that we get the opportunity to play, whether it be GBL or grassroots metas like what Battle Frontier is. So this is just your basic look at the meta. We also live stream a complete breakdown. This is myself and Lyle Jeffs, who is a very accomplished battler in his own right. We live stream these chats on the Pallet Town PvP Twitch and YouTube channels, and we invite everyone to kind of join in and contribute to the discussion because it really helps us to work out the meta. If you want to take a look at the live stream for this meta, where we've basically done all the thinking for you, then we'll chuck the link to that video in the description, or you can click here. In the meantime, this is just your basics, just to get the ball rolling, and so you can do your own research on top of that. So, in my opinion, the meta's pretty much more or less built around 4 Pokemon, and they are your Tapu Fini, Galarian Weezing, Skeledirge, and Double. Everything else that we looked at was kind of built around that, was kind of looked at through the lens of those 4. So you've got Tapu Fini, which is really good with the Water Gun, Surf, and Moonblast. It can be a little awkward. There are some matchups where it relies on you landing the Moonblast correctly, getting your shield baiting right. Even against Greninja, you'd think Greninja is terrible into Tapu Fini, but if they call a Surf bait, then that starts to get a little bit dicey and it's not comfortable. So it can be a little awkward that way, but just strictly by the sims, by the numbers, does quite well. It is the best Pokemon in the meta. Then you got your Galarian Weezing, and you want Brutal Swing and Play Rough as your moveset generally. The only things that you would want Overheat for that are irrelevant are an opposing Galarian Weezing or Excadrill. Luckily with Battle Frontier, you can TM your Pokemon to the moves that are best for your opponent's team after you see them, so that the Overheat option is there if you want it. But in general, that Brutal Swing and Play Rough is the way to go. With that moveset, you will beat Tapu Fini. Brutal Swing is great against your Skeledirge, and there are other ghosts around, which we'll talk about later. Then you've got the Skeledirge, which with Incinerate, Shadow Ball, Disarming Voice is such nice coverage. It doesn't do well into Tapu Fini, but 3 Incinerates and a Shadow Ball will take out 60% of its HP. So if you've got an energy lead going into the Tapu Fini, then you might force them to spend shields, which is such a big deal, right? And then Double, which as always is just super safe. There's nothing that can wall both moves in Body Slam and Payback. And like with Galarian Weezing with Brutal Swing, having that dark move is pretty handy for this Pokemon. So then, outside of those 4, so I don't know if I mentioned this already. Everything we looked at was through the lens of how they compare to those 4. But then there's other things specifically the ground types, and I almost included Shadow Excadrill in that meta defining these are the Pokemon you want to look through. But to be honest, with the top 2 being your Tapu Fini, or 2 of the top 3 being Tapu Fini and Skeledirge, Shadow Excadrill in particular just has a very hard time. It can be farmed down. A Skeledirge can shield once and just farm all the way down, which is nasty. I'm looking more at Palossand. Now, Palossand does have to be an XL Pokemon, but it doesn't have to be Super XL. I think you can get away with a Hundo that's level 41 or something like that. It's got the Scorching Sand as a powerful move. It doesn't do as poorly in Tapu Fini. It still loses against Tapu, but it isn't as much of a just shield and farm it down situation like it is with the Shadow Excadrill. And you've got the moves to the Scorching Sand will take out the Galarian Weezing, the Skeledirge will be afraid of it too. Double is a bit more of an even matchup because those double kicks are double resisted as opposed to being super effective against the Excadrill. So I really like Palossand there. You've also got something like a Golurk. Just find something with ground damage, because I think that's going to be super handy. Speaking of, the other type I want to look at is your poisons. And of course, Galarian Weezing is way up the top there, but you've also got your dark poisons. And dark poisons, one huge advantage of them is they've got Poison Jab, which is super effective against Tapu Fini, which means the Poison Jabbers are probably going to be your best counters to the Tapu Fini. The darkness of the poisons are kind of a double-edged sword against Skeledirge in particular. So you've got like Kanto Muck, which is just straight poison. Me and Lyle were talking, he convinced me that Kanto Muck is better than the Alolan Muck because Muck it still has that dark move of the Dark Pulse, but it's resisting the Disarming Voice from Skeledirge, while the Shadow Ball is fine against neutral against it, and it does the normal amount of damage. Whereas it's the opposite for, say, the Alolan Muck or any other dark poison, where Disarming Voice will do neutral damage and Shadow Ball is resisted. So that is, yeah, a double-edged sword there. The only other one I want to talk about is Dragalge with Dragon Tail, Aqua Tail, and I actually recommend Gunk Shot over Outrage because Gunk Shot will allow you to beat Tapu Fini if you get the baiting right. It also gives you something against the Galarian Weezing. You still lose to that one, but it gives you that weapon that can hit against it. So that is the basics of the Enchanted meta. Let us know what you plan to run in the comments, because that can help other people to help develop ideas, get their team sorted, and may the leads be in your favor.